Welcome to the Emotional Eating Unwrapped podcast. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, an emotional eating and weight loss coach for women looking to fall in love with eating, create healthy attachments with food, and lose weight sustainably. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and I absolutely love today's episode. Today's episode is something I've wanted to talk about for a while. It's not dramatic. It's not super emotional, but it is deeply, deeply connected to why so many of us end up in a food spiral at the end of the day. And I am talking about decision fatigue. Decision fatigue, the mental exhaustion that creeps in after a long day of holding it together, juggling responsibilities, work and home life, managing emotions, yours, other people's, things that aren't even in your lane, right? And then still expecting yourself to make one more good choice. Okay, so if you've ever felt like I was good all day, I was able to keep it together all day, and then I just lost control at night, this episode is for you. And I want you right off the bat to know that this isn't a willpower problem. This isn't a discipline problem. This isn't an intelligence problem. It's an energetic one. It's a systems one. And I want to walk you through. It together. I want us to walk through it together. So we're going to start with what is decision fatigue and why does it matter at all? So every single decision that you make throughout the day, no matter how large, no matter how small, it takes energy. Okay. It takes mental energy, what to wear, what to say in a meeting, whether to reply to that text message now, later, whether to answer that phone call, any energy that you take in, any energy that you put out, right? What to make for dinner, how to manage your child's meltdown, when to speak up, when to let it go, right? It's like your brain is constantly scanning, it's constantly processing, filtering. Even the questions you don't consciously answer is costing you energy. It's expending energy. And so what happens is this: by the time the day winds down, your mental bandwidth is completely gone. Your capacity to make thoughtful, aligned, intentional choices has bottomed out. So when you find yourself on Uber Eats ordering takeout, right, it feels almost like some robot has taken over, ordering takeout or reaching for snacks while standing in the pantry again, eating something you didn't even want in front of the TV. It's not, right? You don't want it. You're not even hungry. Here's the thing. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you don't know better. It's not because you don't have the right plan. It's not because you don't have the right prescription, right, of what to eat. That's not the reason. It's because you're done, right? You're emotionally, mentally done. And so I've had so many conversations with women who say, I just don't trust myself around food, or I must not know it's healthy because I keep making the wrong choices. I must need a plan. I must need a prescription of what to eat. It must be me, right? I must be my own. I just can't, I don't have control. I'm just not the kind of person that, the food is too powerful. But here's the thing: decision fatigue is not about food. It's not even about your capability. It's about capacity. You do know how to nourish yourself. You do know what foods leave you feeling happier, better, more vibrant. But at the end of the day, when your brain has made hundreds, maybe even thousands of other decisions, micro decisions, it physiologically does not have the energy left to even care about what's best, right? It wants fast. It wants easy. What gives relief? And that's not a character flaw. That's biology. So If you're constantly saying, why can't I make better choices? I want you to reframe it as, how can I make fewer decisions in my day? How can I create better boundaries with my energy so that I'm not processing and filtering a bazillion things that isn't my responsibility to do, right? Like, why am I like, I love the phrase, not my circus, not my monkeys. I say it all the time, right? Something comes into my energetic sphere and I'm going to be like, yeah, no, not my circus, not my monkeys, right? It's like, I don't use my processing power for that, because the issue isn't your willpower when it comes to this. It's the weight of all the choices that you're taking on, that you're trying to carry alone. So, how do we reduce decision fatigue around food without more rules? Okay, without more rules, because let's be clear, this isn't about food itself, and this isn't about adding more restriction or rigidity. This is about emotional support, right? It's about structural lifestyle support. And it's about creating that support and plugging into that support before you hit the wall. So, actually, what you need isn't a prescription or something to follow. What you need is to grow the ability to forward think so that you're prepared. So, here's what that might look like, right? A simple rotation of go-to easy meals that you have, right? Stocking your kitchen with foods that feel good in your body and require minimal thought, right? Having default options for nights when cooking is not happening, right? So it's so funny because people are always asking me for fun recipes, and because they're so busy and they have no time. And I'm like, why would you want a recipe for that? Right? Like, why do you even want to follow any kind of recipe? What you really want is a rotation of go-to meals. You want you just want like someone to tell you what to put in a bowl, what to put in a, so you don't have to think about what vegetables or what this. You don't want a recipe. You don't want to be measuring stuff, right? That's annoying. We don't have time for that. That creates more thinking. Okay, so if you have a simple rotation of go-to meals, you stock your kitchen with your food preferences, your what I like to call safe foods, having default options for nights when cooking is not just happening. I happen to have in my mentorship, I have a tool called the Sober Eating Meal Guide and Template. And this is actually something that you get access to when you're in the reprogramming phase of my mentorship. And it is an entire spreadsheet and an entire toolkit of exactly this: a simple rotation of go-to meals, not a rigid meal plan, just a loose rhythm, right? Like a loose rhythm, but it gives you multiple options to plug in for different types of meals so that you're not having the same meal again, right? That's the problem with a recipe or meal plans. It's like you just have to follow those specific things. But my meal guide and template actually gives you multiple options for different sections of the meal so that you can eat the same type of meal, but it feels fresh every time. Okay. So this is something that I think is super, super important, because this meal guide and template and this instruction that I'm giving you, it's not a rule, it's an anchor. It's an anchor. You're not trying to control yourself or follow, again, a guide with no flexibility, right? You're not trying to add more things you have to do. You're trying to lighten the load for your future self. And that's not lazy. That's wise. That's not lazy. That's wise. Okay. And also it can be exciting. That means you can be eating things that are fresh all the time. It feels fresh, even though it's probably the same type of meal. Okay. And so one of the big mindset shifts that I made specifically, and that I work with every single woman that I coach, is this mindset. I remember what it felt like to be stuck in the cycle of emotional eating. I tried every diet out there, counting, tracking, restricting, but nothing ever worked. Food controlled my life, my thoughts, and I constantly felt guilty after eating. But once I learned how to heal the emotional triggers behind my eating and trust my body, everything changed. I stopped obsessing over food, the weight started coming off naturally, and I found real freedom in how I ate and lived. So, I created the Sober Eating year-long mentorship to help other women experience the same transformation. So you can stop battling with food, you can lose weight without deprivation, and you can feel confident in your body again. In this mentorship, you'll have access to my proven nervous system rewiring method. You'll have access to live coaching with me, weekly accountability, and a community of women who truly understand your journey. You'll also have free access to my signature programs, the Emotional Eating Solution and Decoding Permanent Weight Loss, valued at $2,000. Click the link in the show notes to explore the mentorship today. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right there with you every step of the way. If you are somebody that we talked about in the beginning of the episode that finds yourself losing control around food at the end of the day because you don't have the capacity, now that we've made that connection, we've made a lot of decisions. The truth is you're not always hungry for food. You're hungry for relief and for something that lets you exhale. And this is the crux of emotional eating. Oftentimes, emotional eating isn't about being powerless around food. It's the fact that we're using the eating experience and food to give us something. Usually it's relief, rest, something that allows us to just feel, this ability to just let go, exhale. So when we spend our days making all these decisions and we don't have the anchors there to help us that we've prepared for in advance, your nervous system is still buzzing. You don't have the resilience of the anchors yet. And so of course you're going to reach for the thing that feels fast, easy, and comforting. Right? Of course you're going to do that. So what if we started thinking about other ways to find that relief, that rest, and that sense of resolution and feeling of letting go? Right? No elaborate routines. So many of these other programs, you have to it's crazy elaborate routines. But really, oftentimes what you need is just awareness and just tiny acts of pause. In addition to the meal guide template and having something like that in your life, right? Maybe you can take a hot shower. Maybe you can just lie down in a dark room. I sometimes just literally lie down in a dark room. Like I will feel that energy of nervous system buzzing, knowing that, I feel that urgency to go and get something to eat. And I recognize that as not having a lot of capacity. And I will literally just go close the lights, lay on the floor or the couch and just rest, right? And just wait for the energy to pass. And sometimes it doesn't pass. I just expanded my capacity to hold it. And this is something that you have to practice doing because you're still going to want to probably reach for the food. You have to train your nervous system to not need food. We can't bypass that part, right? There's no magic PDF. There's no magic module that's going to do that part for us. Okay. And so that is the thing that we have to accept if we are going to heal, that we have to actually change the behavior to have a different outcome. And at first it's going to feel like a heavy lift, and eventually it's going to feel like a less heavy lift. Okay, so other options are, like I said, a hot shower, lying down in a dark room, stepping outside for like a few minutes of quiet, right? Putting on a playlist, doing nothing. Because at the end of the day, your body is just craving rest, and food has become the shortcut. Food has become the shortcut. So when you give yourself real restoration and your nervous system starts to, process that and receive that as the reset, food won't carry the emotional weight anymore. But it's a practice. It's 100% a practice, right? You're going to feel the desire to go for food, and that pause and pivot is major. But you got to start doing the pause and pivot for it to become your natural default setting. Okay, so before we end, just to wrap, the problem with this type of behavior with eating isn't that you lack willpower, most likely, right? It's really not. It's that you're overwhelmed by the decisions that you're subconsciously and consciously making throughout the day, the micro decisions, the micro energy that you're absorbing, that you're giving, and you're not clocking that as something that is a currency. And so the more exhausted you are, the harder it's going to be to make mindful choices, the harder it's going to be to choose that pause and pivot. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system is tapped out, like we said. So you don't need to try harder. You don't need to get a more rigid prescription of how to eat. You don't need to count calories and macros. Think about that. When you're counting, that's decision. That's why it doesn't work. Because counting is a micro decision. Counting is a micro decision. You need a system that supports you. You need an eating system that's flexible, and you need routines that support you. Gentle structure, thoughtful prep, rest built into your day before food becomes your only source of relief. Right? This is about thinking about your future self, setting yourself up to win. Okay, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being prepared. Okay, and it's about being honest with yourself about what is actually hungry, about what's actually asking to be fed, right? Which is your desire to feel an emotional, relaxed reset. Okay, you're not failing, you're just tired. And you're allowed to create a life that makes it easier to choose what feels good, especially on hard days. But you have to build it. You have to create it. You have to do it. All right. But I know you can, because you're listening to this. So I know that you want to. And you know that I'm here for you. You know that you can always join the mentorship at any point. Love to have you there with the supportive group of women. And so, yeah, that is all for the episode for today. Thank you so much for listening. Wherever you're listening, on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, please like us, subscribe. We love hearing from you. Leave us a comment. Happy to see anybody who loves the podcast and likes giving us a little love, a little shout. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.